The Great Pyramid's base is level to within half an inch. How did ancient builders achieve such perfection with no modern tools? This video uncovers 20 forgotten engineering principles that built our earliest civilizations. You will learn the secrets behind megalithic structures that fit together without mortar and aqueducts that defied desert droughts. We will explore how societies from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica mastered materials and forces we are only now beginning to understand. What hidden knowledge allowed them to align entire cities with the stars? Why did their concrete last longer than our own? By the end, you will see every ancient ruin not as a pile of stones, but as a masterpiece of lost science. What forgotten truth about human potential do these ruins whisper to us? That seamless perfection in stonework represents the very first of our lost engineering principles. It is called megalithic precision and stone joinery. Think of the fortress of Sacsayhuaman in Peru. Its walls are a puzzle of colossal, irregular stones, some weighing over 100 tons. Yet each one is shaped to fit its neighbors with such intimacy that the gaps are virtually invisible. You could not slide a single piece of paper between them. This was not just about stacking rocks. It was a masterclass in geometry and material science. The builders used a technique called interlocking joinery, carving subtle curves and multifaceted angles so that every block locked into the one beside it, above it, and below it. They achieved these mirror-smooth surfaces not with power tools, but with patient abrasion, likely using sand and water to slowly grind the stone to a perfect finish. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? The answer lies in the earth itself. In a land shaken by frequent and powerful earthquakes, these walls were designed to dance. When the ground trembles, a rigid wall would crack and collapse, but a wall built with interlocking, irregular stones actually moves. The blocks shift and settle against each other, absorbing the energy, and then they simply settle back into place when the shaking stops. This is not primitive construction. It is a brilliant, resilient system engineered for eternity, proving that the first builders understood their materials and their environment on a level we are only now relearning. That same intimate knowledge of the landscape was applied to a far more fluid and vital challenge, the mastery of water itself. Our second lost principle is hydraulic engineering and aqueduct systems. In the heart of a desert, the rose-red city of Petra did not merely survive, it flourished, all because of a hidden network of water channels carved directly through solid rock. This was not simple plumbing, it was a grand symphony of hydrology. The Nabatean engineers designed their entire city as a catchment system, channeling every drop of sporadic rainwater from the surrounding cliffs through a complex web of canals, dams, and underground conduits. They understood gravity with an artist's touch, guiding water for miles to feed reservoirs, public fountains, and even individual homes, turning a barren landscape into an oasis of luxury. This principle of moving water with gravity alone was perfected across the ancient world. The Romans built their monumental aqueducts, yes, but their true genius lay in the invisible details. They constructed settling tanks where water would slow down, allowing impurities and sand to sink to the bottom before the clean water continued its journey. They used sluice gates to control the flow, diverting water to different districts or shutting it off for repairs. This was a managed, intelligent system. Their mastery extended to drainage as well, with elaborate sewer networks that carried waste away and prevented the flooding and erosion that could destroy a city's foundations. Controlling water was not just about convenience, it was the very engine of civilization. It allowed for the agricultural surplus that supported massive populations, the public baths that promoted health, and the fountains that symbolized a city's power and prosperity. The ability to command this most essential resource, to bring life to the desert and order to the rain, was a cornerstone of engineering that built the world itself. While they mastered the flow of water on the ground, ancient engineers also looked to the heavens, mapping the cosmos with a precision that still defies easy explanation. This is the third lost principle: astronomical alignment and celestial geometry. The Great Circle of Stonehenge is a perfect example. Its massive sarsen stones arranged so that on the summer solstice, the sun's first light pierces directly through the heart of the monument. But this was far more than a single ceremonial event. It was a sophisticated, permanent calendar carved in stone, predicting seasonal changes essential for planting and harvest. This deep celestial knowledge was a global phenomenon. The Maya built pyramid temples like the one at Chichen Itza, where during the equinoxes, the play of light and shadow creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down the steps, a direct communication between the earth and the sky. In ancient Egypt, the Great Pyramid was aligned with such incredible accuracy that its sides faced the four cardinal directions: north, south, east, and west, with an error of less than 1/15 of a single degree. How was this possible without modern instruments? The answer lies in generations of patient, meticulous observation. Priests and astronomers would have tracked the slow drift of stars, the cycles of the moon, and the sun's changing path for centuries, passing this accumulated wisdom down through oral traditions and early scripts. They did not see this as separate from engineering or city planning. It was all part of a unified system. By aligning their temples, tombs, and entire cities with the cosmos, they created a world where the divine was physically present in the architecture. These structures were both spiritual centers and practical tools, functioning as immense calendars, navigational guides for travelers, and anchors of cultural identity. They bridged the earthly and the divine not through faith alone, but through breathtakingly precise calculation, a testament to a forgotten science that saw the universe as a blueprint to be followed. That same chemical ingenuity that aligned stones with the stars was also mixed into the very mortar that held ancient cities together. Our fourth lost principle is geopolymer and advanced mortar techniques. Consider the walls of Jericho, one of the oldest fortified cities on Earth. Its survival through millennia was partly due to an early form of lime plaster, a revolutionary binding material that transformed mud and straw into a resilient, weather-resistant shield. This was the beginning of a global chemical revolution. Across the ancient world, engineers moved beyond simple clay and began creating complex artificial stones. They discovered that by heating limestone in kilns, they could produce quicklime, a highly reactive powder. When mixed with water and reactive silica from volcanic ash or crushed pottery, this created a chemical reaction that formed a crystalline gel, binding sand and rubble into a solid, durable mass. This is the essence of a geopolymer, a synthetic stone that could be poured into molds and would harden even underwater. Research at sites from the Indus Valley to the pyramids reveals that these were not simple recipes. Builders added organic materials as secret ingredients. Egg whites, plant resins, or even animal blood were mixed in, acting as plasticizers. These natural additives gave the mortar a flexibility that pure cement lacks, allowing it to shift slightly with temperature changes and ground settlement without cracking. This chemical mastery enabled the creation of waterproof systems that held drinking water for entire populations, fortification walls that withstood sieges, and intricate decorative stucco that adorned palaces and temples. The Roman concrete used in their harbors, for instance, has lasted for 2,000 years in the relentless sea, actually growing stronger as seawater crystallizes new minerals within it, a self-healing property our modern concrete cannot match. This was not just mixing mud, it was high-level materials science, a forgotten art of turning common earth into eternal stone. From the chemistry of stone to the very soil beneath our feet, these ancient engineers reshaped entire landscapes with breathtaking ambition. The fifth lost principle is terraced agriculture and soil mechanics. High in the mountains of the Philippines, the Ifugao rice terraces rise like giant stairways to the sky, a feat of engineering that turned steep, erosion-prone slopes into a lush, productive ecosystem. This was far more than simple farming. It was a grand act of geoengineering, a total transformation of the land itself. At its heart was the retaining wall, a structure built with an intimate understanding of soil mechanics. These walls, often made of stone or packed earth, did more than just hold back dirt. They created level platforms that slowed the destructive rush of rainwater down the mountain, giving it time to soak into the soil instead of washing the precious topsoil away. The builders were master hydrologists using a technique we now call contour mapping. They followed the natural curves of the land, laying out their terraces along lines of equal elevation. This ensured that water and nutrients would be distributed evenly across every single level, from the highest terrace to the lowest. But the genius went even deeper, quite literally, with sophisticated subsurface drainage. They integrated layers of gravel and sand behind the walls and beneath the soil, creating hidden channels that allowed excess water to seep away slowly. This prevented the soil from becoming waterlogged, which would rot the roots while simultaneously replenishing the groundwater table. This mastery of earth and water created a sustainable, closed-loop system that has fed communities for over 2,000 years. It prevented catastrophic landslides by anchoring the slopes, preserved the rich biodiversity of the mountain environment, and allowed civilizations to thrive in places once thought uninhabitable. By sculpting the hills, they did not conquer nature, they collaborated with it, creating a harmony between human need and the living land that stands as a timeless lesson in intelligent design. Beneath the colossal arch of Ctesiphon, a single curve of brick soars over the desert without a single pillar for support. This is the sixth lost principle, the mastery of the arch and the vault. While the Egyptians built with post and lintel, stacking massive horizontal stones on vertical supports, the Mesopotamians and later the Romans unlocked a new kind of strength. They understood that weight could be a friend, not just a foe to be overcome. The secret lies in the keystone, that wedge-shaped stone at the very top of the arch. When it is pressed into place, it transforms the entire structure. Instead of pushing straight down, the force of gravity is redirected along the curve of the arch, channeling the load outward and down into the supporting piers or walls. This is the magic of compressive force, where every stone in the arch is squeezed tightly against its neighbors, creating a single, incredibly strong unit that actually becomes more stable under heavier loads. This single innovation shattered the limitations of interior space. Suddenly, builders could span wide rivers with graceful bridges, channel water through towering aqueducts, and enclose the vast, echoing interiors of public baths and basilicas. The Pantheon in Rome, with its breathtaking unsupported dome, is the ultimate expression of this principle, a perfect hemisphere of concrete that has stood for nearly 2,000 years. The arch was also a genius response to a trembling earth. Unlike a rigid beam that would snap under seismic stress, a well-built arch is designed to flex and shift slightly, its components compressing and settling together without collapsing. This is why so many Roman aqueducts still stride across European landscapes, while modern structures crumble. They were not just building for their time, they were engineering for eternity, creating a legacy of open space and enduring strength that would inspire every great cathedral and capitol dome that followed. While the arch shaped grand spaces above, an equally profound revolution was happening on the ground, organizing the chaotic growth of human settlement into a blueprint for civilization. The seventh lost principle is urban planning and grid systems. In the ancient city of Mohenjo-Daro, you do not find a tangled maze of alleyways. Instead, you walk along broad, straight streets that intersect at perfect right angles, a vast orthogonal grid laid out with a surveyor's precision. This was not an accident, it was a master plan. The entire city was divided into standardized blocks with distinct zones for residential neighborhoods, craft workshops, and grand public buildings. Every house, from the most modest to the most elaborate, was built with standardized kiln-fired bricks of a uniform ratio, a testament to a centralized authority and a shared vision of order. The true genius of this design, however, lay in what was hidden beneath the streets. A sophisticated sewerage network ran throughout the city, with clay pipes channeling waste away from homes and into covered drains that lined the main avenues. Individual homes had bathing areas with drains that fed directly into this system, and public wells provided clean, accessible water. This was a society that engineered public health on a massive scale, understanding that a city's greatness was measured not just by its monuments, but by the well-being of its people. By applying geometric principles to the urban landscape, these early planners achieved something remarkable. They created a city that was incredibly efficient for transportation and commerce, where goods and people could move freely. They fostered community cohesion by designing neighborhoods that were both self-contained and connected to the whole. Most importantly, they built for the future, creating a scalable design that could grow in an orderly fashion. This ancient blueprint, born in the Indus Valley over 4,000 years ago, established the very DNA of metropolitan life, a legacy of intelligent design that continues to influence our dreams of sustainable and livable cities today. The order of the city grid finds its counterpoint in the controlled chaos of the forge. From the meticulous planning of urban centers, we move to the eighth lost principle, metallurgy and metalworking innovations. Deep within the workshops of the Shang dynasty, artisans performed a kind of alchemy, transforming earth into art and power. They mastered the lost wax casting technique, a process of breathtaking ingenuity. It began with a sculptor crafting a model from beeswax, detailing every feather on a bronze vessel or every curl on a ritual mask. This wax original was then encased in a clay mold and fired in a kiln. The wax would melt and drain away, leaving behind a perfect hollow negative space. Molten bronze, a shimmering river of liquid metal, was then poured into this cavity, filling every intricate detail. Once cooled, the clay shell was broken away, revealing a single, flawless metal object. This was not mere crafting, it was the birth of precision manufacturing. But the true magic was in the recipe. These ancient smiths were not just melting metal, they were creating advanced alloys. Through generations of experimentation, they discovered that by mixing copper with a precise amount of tin, they could produce bronze that was far harder and more durable than pure copper. Some even experimented with adding arsenic to the mix, creating an alloy with superior resistance to corrosion. Achieving this required a profound understanding of temperature control. They developed furnaces, often using forced air from bellows, capable of reaching the extreme heats necessary to melt and combine these metals consistently. This mastery over fire and earth reverberated far beyond the workshop. Durable bronze axes cleared forests for farmland, stronger plowshares turned stubborn soil, and sharp, reliable weapons reshaped the very nature of warfare and defense. But perhaps its greatest impact was in connection. These metal goods became the ultimate trade commodities, prized across vast distances. A bronze dagger from Anatolia might find its way to Egypt, while tin from Cornwall in Britain supplied the entire Mediterranean. This circulation of goods created the world's first global technological network, a web of exchange where ideas, techniques, and cultures flowed along the same routes as the metal itself, forging connections that would shape the destiny of continents. The same mastery over metal that forged trade networks was soon turned toward a far darker purpose: the art of war and the science of survival. The ninth lost principle is siege engineering and defensive architecture. The legendary walls of Constantinople were not a single barrier, but a layered masterpiece of defense. First came a wide, water-filled moat, then an outer low wall for skirmishers, and finally the massive inner Theodosian walls, studded with nearly 100 towering forts. This was not just a wall, it was an integrated system designed to break an enemy's will piece by piece. Every feature had a purpose born from grim experience. The walls were built with sloping faces to cause incoming projectiles from catapults to glance off harmlessly. Gatehouses were not simple openings, but twisted labyrinths of inner courtyards and multiple heavy gates, forcing attackers into deadly kill zones where defenders could rain down arrows, rocks, and boiling pitch through openings known as murder holes. The genius, however, extended beyond the stonework itself. Defensive architects were masters of terrain. They positioned their strongest bastions on the highest natural ground, giving defenders a commanding view. They used rivers and marshes as natural moats, and they cleared wide, open fields of fire in front of their walls to eliminate any cover for approaching armies. This was a holistic form of security where the landscape itself was conscripted into the city's defense. These fortifications were not passive shields, they were active instruments of power. A city with impregnable walls could withstand a siege for years, allowing its rulers to dictate terms, control trade routes, and outlast rival empires. The very presence of such defenses shaped the political map, making some cities unconquerable bastions that preserved knowledge and culture through centuries of turmoil. The outcome of history itself was often decided not just by the courage of soldiers, but by the foresight of the engineers who designed the ground upon which they stood. The sprawling empires of the ancient world were held together not just by walls but by pathways. The 10th lost principle is road networks and transportation infrastructure. To traverse the Inca road system was to walk across a continent, a masterwork of engineering that conquered the world's most formidable terrain. This network, over 25,000 miles long, did not simply go around the Andes Mountains, it went straight over and through them. The builders carved stepped pathways into sheer cliff faces, preventing erosion and making the steep ascents manageable for travelers and laden llamas alike. They spanned bottomless gorges with suspension bridges woven from native grasses, structures so strong they could support a column of Spanish cavalry. This was not just trailblazing, it was a total re-engineering of the landscape for movement. The genius was in the details, all designed for permanence and purpose. The roadbeds were constructed with layers of crushed stone and compacted earth for a stable foundation, while the surfaces were often paved with flat stones to withstand the punishing traffic and torrential rains. They integrated sophisticated drainage with culverts and side ditches that channeled water away, preventing the washouts that would cripple a modern dirt road. The gradient was carefully managed with switchbacks and rest stations known as tambos placed at strategic intervals. These stations provided shelter, supplies, and a place for the empire's swift relay runners, the chasquis, to pass messages, enabling information to travel faster than anywhere else in the pre-industrial world. This was the circulatory system of a continent-spanning state. It allowed the emperor in Cuzco to command armies 1,000 miles away, enabled the transport of food from fertile valleys to arid highlands, and facilitated a constant flow of ideas, art, and technologies between distant provinces. By creating these reliable corridors, the Inca and other early engineers like the Romans did more than just build roads. They built the very concept of a unified territory, weaving isolated communities into a single, powerful tapestry and accelerating the pace of civilization itself. High on a sun-baked mesa, a city was built not on the cliff but within it. The ancient Pueblo people of Mesa Verde engineered their homes to be a living part of the mountain itself, mastering an 11th principle, solar and passive climate control. They did not fight their environment, they collaborated with it. By carving their dwellings deep into south-facing alcoves, they harnessed the sun as a precise seasonal tool. In the winter, when the sun hangs low in the sky, its rays would penetrate deep into the recesses, warming the massive stone walls that acted as a thermal battery, storing heat and releasing it slowly through the cold desert nights. Come summer, with the sun high overhead, the massive rock overhang cast a perfect, cooling shadow over the entire community, a natural awning that blocked the intense heat. This was architecture as a thermostat. Their genius extended to the very materials they used. The stone of the cliff face itself served as thermal mass, a dense material that absorbs heat energy slowly and releases it even more slowly, effectively smoothing out the extreme temperature swings between day and night. They engineered ventilation through carefully placed shafts, creating convection currents that would draw cool air from lower chambers and expel warm, stale air from above. This was not just comfort, it was survival. They built tram walls, dark, massive surfaces placed behind glazing that would trap solar heat and radiate it inward, and they dug underground cooling chambers where the constant, cool temperature of the earth itself could preserve food. This entire system required no external fuel, no complex machinery, only a profound and intimate understanding of the sun's path, the wind's behavior, and the Earth's own stable energy. It was a perfect, self-regulating system of sustainable design, one that provided resilient comfort for centuries with virtually no environmental cost, a timeless lesson in building in harmony with the forces of nature. Deep within the Maltese Islands, a whisper in the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni does not fade away. It curls and resonates, transforming into a deep, humming echo that seems to emanate from the stone itself. This is the 12th lost principle, acoustic engineering and sonic resonance. The builders of this subterranean sanctuary did not just carve chambers out of the rock, they sculpted the very air within them. Certain rooms are shaped like giant ceramic pots, with curved walls that focus and amplify sound waves, allowing a single voice to be heard with perfect clarity in every corner. Other niches are tuned to specific frequencies, where chanting a particular note would make the entire space vibrate, a physical sensation that could induce trance-like states during rituals. This mastery of sound was not a happy accident. It reveals a profound, empirical understanding of wave propagation. At sites like the Greek theatre of Epidaurus, the steeply banked semicircle of seats acts as a perfect sound filter. It traps and reflects the actors' voices upward toward the audience while suppressing background noise from the city below, a natural amplification system that requires no electricity. The Maya built pyramid staircases that create a piercing, chirping echo mimicking the sacred Quetzal bird when you clap your hands at their base. This was physics in service of the human spirit. By engineering these auditory environments, ancient architects could control emotion and focus attention. A deep, resonant drumbeat in a stone chamber could stir primal fear or unity. A perfectly clear whisper from a high priest, seemingly delivered by the gods themselves, could command absolute authority. Sound became a tool for communion, a way to bind a community together through a shared, immersive experience that was as carefully designed as the structures that contained it. They understood that a space is not just seen, it is heard, and by shaping its sound, they could shape the minds and hearts of all who entered. The silent gaze of a colossal stone head holds more than just history, it holds a command. Towering over the landscape of ancient Mexico, the Olmec heads are not merely portraits, they are mountains remade into human form, each one weighing as much as 50 tons. Their striking, individualized features, from their helmets to their solemn expressions, were not just art, they were a declaration of identity and authority, a physical manifestation of a ruler's power carved for eternity. This is the 13th lost principle, monumental sculpture and symbolic proportion. It was the art of turning geology into ideology, where the sheer scale of the work was as meaningful as the image itself. The technical challenge was staggering. How do you move a 50-ton block of basalt from a distant quarry through swamps and jungle without the wheel or draft animals? The answer was a symphony of logistics, likely involving fleets of rollers, sledges, and the coordinated muscle of hundreds, all directed by a single, unwavering artistic vision. But the true genius lay in the transformation of that raw stone. These sculptors worked with an intuitive understanding of geometry and proportion. In Egypt, this was codified into a sacred science. Artists used a strict grid system based on the so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship found throughout nature that the human eye perceives as inherently harmonious and beautiful. A statue's proportions, from the distance between the eyes to the length of the fingers, were all determined by this cosmic rulebook. This was not about creative freedom. It was about creating a vessel worthy of a god or a pharaoh, a form that was perfectly balanced according to the same principles that govern the universe. The result was more than a statue, it was a permanent anchor for cultural memory. A massive stela in a Maya city plaza covered in hieroglyphs was a public library in stone. A towering Buddha carved into a Chinese cliff face was not just a religious icon, it was the mountain itself made divine. By uniting immense logistical skill with profound symbolic meaning, these ancient engineers gave abstract ideas a physical form that could withstand the erosion of time, ensuring their gods, their kings, and their very world you would never be forgotten. Far out at sea, with no land in sight, ancient mariners placed their trust in the very stars above and the hidden geometry of the ship beneath their feet. This is the 14th lost principle, navigational and maritime engineering. Picture a Phoenician trading vessel, its hull slicing through Mediterranean swells. Its strength came not from a single piece of wood, but from a skeletal framework built first, with planks then fastened edge to edge using intricate mortise and tenon joints, locked together with wooden pegs. This shell-based construction created a hull that was both flexible and immensely strong, able to twist with the waves without breaking apart. The ship's deep keel acted as an underwater blade, counteracting the wind's push against the sails and preventing the vessel from being blown sideways, a feature essential for holding a steady course across open water. And above, the lateen sail, a triangular masterpiece of aerodynamics, could be angled to catch the wind from almost any direction, turning a following breeze into a powerful forward thrust. This was a machine perfectly adapted to its element, but a sturdy ship is useless without a sense of direction. When the sun blazed overhead, navigators used simple but effective tools. They measured the sun's angle with a basic astrolabe, a disc marked with degrees that could tell them how far north or south they had traveled. At night, they steered by the unchanging circle of stars around Polaris, the North Star. They carried detailed periply, sailing manuals that described coastlines, landmarks, currents, and even the best seasons to set sail, transforming vast, terrifying oceans into mapped, manageable highways. Every design choice served a dual purpose. The sleek, rounded hull minimized drag, allowing for greater speed with less effort, while its cavernous belly was engineered for maximum cargo, carrying olive oil, wine, and precious glass across thousands of miles. These ships were not just wooden shells, they were the engines of the first global age. They carried not only goods but also ideas, alphabets, technologies, and deities, weaving together the cultures of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and Greece long before empires claimed the sea as their own. The world was connected not by roads, but by these daring vessels and the forgotten engineers who taught wood to dance with the ocean. A single turn of a hand crank on the Antikythera mechanism set over 30 interlocking bronze gears into motion, a miniature cosmos of mathematical precision. This intricate device, recovered from an ancient shipwreck, was not a clock but a mechanical computer that could predict lunar phases, solar eclipses, and the positions of planets years into the future. It represents the 15th lost principle, the mastery of mechanical devices and simple machines. The genius of these systems lay in their elegant simplicity, a profound understanding of how to redirect and amplify force. A lever is just a rigid bar and a fulcrum, yet it allows a single person to lift a stone that would otherwise require 50. A pulley system redirects the pull of gravity, enabling builders to hoist massive blocks straight up the face of a pyramid with a fraction of the effort. The screw, another Hellenistic innovation, was not just a fastener. Archimedes designed a screw pump, a spiral within a cylinder, that could lift water from a river to irrigation ditches with a simple turn, revolutionizing agriculture. These were the first steps toward automating human labor. The underlying physics, the principles of kinematics and mechanical advantage, were explored and codified by thinkers like Archimedes himself, who reportedly boasted he could move the earth with a lever long enough. This was not just about building bigger, it was about thinking smarter. The development of geared mechanisms for complex calculations and water-powered mills for grinding grain transformed entire economies. It increased productivity to a scale previously unimaginable, freeing human intellect for new pursuits in art, governance, and science. The rhythmic turning of those first gears set in motion a chain of inquiry, a foundational curiosity about the rules that govern motion and force that would ultimately lead to the Industrial Revolution and beyond, all born from the simple, brilliant act of making a machine do the work. The steady rhythm of a potter's foot on a kickwheel transformed humble clay into the backbone of civilization. Our 16th lost principle is ceramic and pottery technology. In the hands of a Minoan artisan, a lump of clay was not just shaped, it was engineered. The potter began with a profound understanding of their raw material, selecting specific clay types for their unique properties, some fine and smooth for delicate cups, others coarse and strong for massive storage jars. But pure clay is brittle when fired, so they added temper, a secret ingredient of crushed sand, shell, or even old, ground-up pottery. This temper acted like a microscopic reinforcement, creating tiny channels that allowed steam to escape during firing and preventing the vessel from cracking apart from the inside out. The true magic, however, happened within the kiln. These were not simple fires, they were carefully controlled chemical environments. By opening or closing air vents, the potter could create an oxidizing atmosphere for rich reds and blacks, or a reducing atmosphere that starved the fire of oxygen, producing striking metallic sheens and deep grays. This was high-temperature chemistry in practice. They developed glazes from crushed mineral oxides, painting them onto the clay before firing. In the kiln's intense heat, these minerals would melt into a thin, glassy coating that was completely waterproof and resistant to acids and alkalis, perfect for storing wine, oil, or grain. This technological leap created a versatile medium that touched every aspect of life. A ceramic jar could preserve food for years, protecting a community from famine. A cooking pot could withstand daily use over an open flame, transforming raw ingredients into safe, nutritious meals. And these vessels became the very fabric of trade and culture, their shapes and painted scenes carrying artistic styles and religious beliefs across vast distances. From a humble water jug to a brilliantly painted amphora, this ancient alchemy of earth and fire provided the durable, everyday objects that made settled society not just possible but beautiful. The tension of a single thread on a backstrap loom holds an entire culture in its weave. This is the 17th lost principle, textile production and loom engineering. In the high Andes, a weaver becomes part of the machine, her own body anchoring one end of the loom while she manipulates threads with an intricate dance of fingers and wooden tools. With this seemingly simple apparatus, she creates complex fabrics dense with symbolic motifs, each pattern a coded language of her community's history and beliefs. The loom itself was a marvel of mechanical design, a portable frame of rods and heddles that could raise and lower specific sets of warp threads, allowing the weaver to pass the weft thread through in a precise sequence to build an image row by row. This was binary code written in fiber long before the computer age. The process began long before the loom with the engineering of the thread itself. Spindle whorls, those small, weighted discs used to spin raw cotton or alpaca wool into yarn, were carefully calibrated. The weight and diameter of the whorl determined the thickness and twist of the final thread, allowing for the creation of everything from fine, delicate yarns for intricate patterns to thick, sturdy cords for heavy blankets. Then came the alchemy of color. Early dyers were master chemists, creating a vibrant palette from the natural world. They knew that crushing cochineal insects produced a brilliant scarlet, that indigo leaves fermented in vats yielded deep blues, and that certain lichens could give rich purples and browns. They understood mordants, using metallic salts from alum or iron to chemically bond these dyes to the fibers, ensuring the colors would not fade after years of sun and washing. This mastery of tools and chemistry enabled the mass production of textiles that were far more than just clothes. A finely woven tapestry could serve as a portable temple, its patterns mapping the cosmos. A garment's specific design could instantly communicate a person's village, social status, and even their family lineage. These textiles became a primary form of wealth and a major trade commodity, their durability and beauty valued across continents. Most importantly, the loom became a living library. The intricate knowledge of patterns, techniques, and dye recipes was too complex to be written down. It was preserved in the rhythmic, practiced movements of the weavers, passed from one generation to the next, ensuring that the fabric of civilization itself would never unravel. A spider the size of a city block waits patiently in the Peruvian desert. The Nazca lines are a gallery of giants, a menagerie of monkeys, hummingbirds, and geometric forms so vast they can only be fully comprehended from the sky. This is the 18th lost principle, Geoglyph and Landscape Art, where the earth itself becomes a permanent canvas. The method was deceptively simple yet executed with stunning precision. The dark, sun-baked surface stones were carefully removed, revealing the lighter, contrasting soil beneath. This created sharp, clean lines that have resisted erosion for over 2,000 years. But how do you design a perfect spiral or a symmetrical condor with a wingspan longer than a football field when you are standing on the ground? The answer lies in a masterful application of basic surveying. Researchers believe the Nazca engineers used a system of stakes and ropes, scaling up small models into these monumental figures through a grid system, a testament to their advanced grasp of geometry and proportion. The purpose of these immense drawings continues to spark debate. Were they celestial maps aligning with the risings of the sun and specific star clusters during solstices? Were they sacred pathways walked by priests during rituals to petition the gods for water in this arid land? Or were they a powerful social statement, a declaration of identity and territory visible to the deities in the sky? Whatever their primary function, their creation demanded something extraordinary, a unified communal effort. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of people had to coordinate their labor over immense distances, all directed by a single shared vision. This ability to organize and execute such a long-term, non-utilitarian project speaks to a complex and cohesive society. It demonstrates that these ancient people saw their relationship with the land not just in practical terms of agriculture and shelter, but in deeply symbolic ones. They did not simply live on the land, they were in a continuous dialogue with it, etching their myths, their astronomy, and their very identity into the skin of the planet. The geoglyphs are a stunning reminder that engineering is not always about what is built up, but sometimes about what is revealed, a collaboration between human intention and the enduring memory of the earth. Deep beneath the English countryside, the earth is still scarred from an ancient industry. At Grimes Graves, Neolithic miners descended over 30 feet into the dark on ladders made of wood and rope, their only light coming from small stone lamps burning animal fat. Their tools were crafted from the very materials they sought, using red deer antlers as picks and the shoulder blades of oxen as shovels to pry precious flint from the chalk bedrock. This was the 19th principle, a masterclass in mining and quarrying logistics. It began with a sophisticated knowledge of geology, the ability to read the landscape for surface outcrops or distinctive vegetation that betrayed a rich seam below. Once a site was chosen, the extraction was a carefully planned operation. In larger mines, they left sturdy pillars of untouched stone at regular intervals to support the cavernous ceilings, an early form of tunnel engineering that prevented collapses. For especially hard rock, they used a technique called fire setting. They would build a fierce fire directly against the rock face, heating it intensely, and then suddenly douse it with water. The thermal shock would cause the stone to crack and split, making it far easier to break apart with their antler tools. But how did they work so deep underground without suffocating? They engineered basic but effective ventilation by digging multiple shafts, using the difference in air temperature to create a natural draft that pulled fresh air down one opening and expelled stale, smoky air from another. This was not a haphazard digging, it was a systematic, safety-conscious industry. The scale of logistics extended far beyond the mine entrance. Once extracted, the raw flint nodules or massive stone blocks for construction had to be transported. For stones like the blue stones used at Stonehenge, this meant organizing teams to move multi-ton slabs over hundreds of miles, likely using a combination of rollers, sledges, and river barges. This required a staggering level of social organization, a command structure that could feed, house, and direct a specialized workforce. The flint from Grimes Graves was not just for local farmers. These mines were part of a vast exchange network, their products traveling across the continent to become axes, scrapers, and arrowheads. This reliable supply of high-quality materials was the foundation upon which everything else was built. It allowed for the specialization of labor where not everyone had to be a farmer because the miner could trade his flint for grain, the toolmaker could craft the flint into axes, and the trader could transport those axes to distant communities. This web of resource extraction and distribution was the invisible engine of civilization, fueling technological progress and weaving isolated groups into a connected, interdependent world. Every path through Teotihuacan was a sentence in a story written in stone. You did not simply walk the avenue of the dead, you moved through a deliberate sequence of spiritual and social instruction. The city itself was a cosmic diagram, its main axis aligned not just with the setting sun on a specific day, but with the sacred mountain rising in the distance. This was the 20th lost principle, symbolic urban iconography and wayfinding, where the entire urban landscape became a tool for orientation, education, and control. The three great structures, the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, were not randomly placed. They formed a powerful, hierarchical triangle that physically and visually directed the flow of people. A pilgrim arriving from the countryside would be funneled onto the main avenue, their gaze drawn inevitably upward toward the monumental pyramids, an immediate and humbling reminder of the city's divine authority and their place within its order. This guidance was woven into the very fabric of the streets. The builders used a technique we now call axial alignment, where major pathways are arranged along a central, dominant line to create a clear processional route. This was not merely for grand ceremonies, it was a brilliant form of intuitive navigation. In a city of tens of thousands where many could not read, the architecture itself provided the directions. The color of plaster on a building, the specific animal depicted in a recurring mural, or the style of a sculpted headdress on a corner shrine, all of these acted as symbolic street signs. A certain color might denote a district of artisans, while a repeated serpent motif could lead you toward the priestly quarters. This integration of iconography with practical layout transformed the city into a living, three-dimensional map of the civilization's belief system and social structure. It told you where you were, both physically and spiritually, reinforcing communal identity with every step. The city was not just a place to live, it was a machine for shaping thought, a carefully engineered environment where moving through space was synonymous with understanding your role in the cosmos, all without a single written word of instruction. From the seamless stonework of Machu Picchu to the gravity-defying aqueducts of Rome, these 20 lost engineering principles reveal a profound legacy of human innovation. Each technique we have explored, from celestial alignment to geopolymer chemistry, was not merely a construction method, it was a sophisticated response to immense challenges. These civilizations overcame the limits of their environment not with brute force, but with deep observation, creative problem-solving, and remarkable collaboration. They saw the universe as an interconnected system, and their engineering reflected that holistic vision. They understood that a building must dance with earthquakes, that a city must breathe with the climate, and that a society thrives when its infrastructure serves both the body and the spirit. As we confront our own global challenges, from climate change to resource scarcity, these ancient strategies offer more than just historical curiosity. They provide a blueprint for sustainable ingenuity. The passive solar design of Mesa Verde, the earthquake-resilient walls of Peru, and the water-harvesting genius of Petra all point toward a future where we work in harmony with natural forces rather than fighting against them. So the next time you walk a city street, consider the invisible principles beneath your feet and around you. How might the timeless wisdom of soil mechanics or acoustic design inspire the next generation of engineers? What could we rebuild if we relearned the art of collaboration with the earth? the foundations for a resilient future may well lie in the quiet wisdom of our ancestors. If these journeys into our shared past have sparked your curiosity, I invite you to share your own thoughts in the comments below. What lost principle resonated most with you? And for more explorations into the mysteries that built our world, be sure to subscribe. Our story is far from over.